Harry Collison's murder. It began as a simple planning dispute in a quiet corner of northern England, but it would end in bloodshed, live on television. In the countryside of Butsfield, a 70-year-old man named Albert Dryden had built a small home on his land, a steel-framed bungalow he claimed was his right to keep. But the local council disagreed. They said he'd built it illegally, without planning permission, and demanded that it must be torn down. For years, Dryden fought them, letter after letter, confrontation after confrontation, his resentment growing with every visit from the council's planning officer, Harry Collison. To Dryden, Harry wasn't just enforcing the law, he was denying the dream he'd built with his own hands. Soon, Dryden's anger would reach a deadly breaking point, and the cameras were rolling when he finally snapped. The morning air was heavy with tension as Harry Collison arrived at Albert Dryden's property with a team of council workers and police officers. Their mission was clear: demolish the illegally built bungalow once and for all. But this wasn't a quiet hidden operation. Television cameras from the BBC and local press were there to record what was meant to be a routine enforcement. As the team approached, Dryden stood waiting, gun in hand, a look of cold determination in his eyes. Reporters thought he was bluffing, another outburst from an angry homeowner. But within seconds, the scene turned into chaos.
Can you get a shot of this gun?
Out of it!
In front of police, the live cameras, Albert Dryden raised his weapon, a vintage .38 revolver, and fired. Harry Collison fell instantly, struck in the chest. Screams filled the air as journalists ducked for cover, still recording. Council workers ran for their lives, police officers scrambled for cover, and reporters kept their cameras rolling, capturing every terrifying moment. Harry Collison lay dying on the ground, struck by a single bullet. Another officer was injured by a ricochet. When police finally closed in, Albert Dryden stood almost motionless, revolver still in his hand, his expression eerily calm. He was arrested on the spot as stunned witnesses tried to comprehend what they had just seen. Within hours, the footage was broadcast across the country, the killing of a council official caught on live TV. Albert Dryden showed little remorse when questioned by police. He claimed he'd been pushed too far, that years of humiliation and pressure from the council had driven him to breaking point. At his trial, prosecutors painted a very different picture, not of a desperate man, but of someone who had meticulously planned revenge. He had cleaned and prepared his revolver, even digging a trench to use as cover on the morning of the demolition. Witnesses described how he calmly waited for the council to arrive before pulling the trigger. The jury didn't take long to decide. Dryden was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison. When family members stopped by to check on 80-year-old Loretta Lavrini, they found her lying motionless in bed. At first they thought she was sleeping, until they noticed the bruising around her neck. Panic spread through the neighbourhood. Police were called immediately, and one name surfaced again and again: her 50-year-old son, Lorenzo Carbone. He lived with her, cared for her, and now he was missing. As investigators sealed off the scene, whispers began circulating. Had something gone terribly wrong inside that house? No one yet knew the answer, and the killer would soon reveal themselves live on national television. It was a quiet Sunday in a small town of northern Italy, where 80-year-old Loretta Lavrini was found dead in her bed, discovered by her daughter. Authorities launched a search for her 50-year-old son, Lorenzo Carbone, who had been living with her and was now unaccounted for. He went missing. Authorities initially were concerned for his well-being, but were also considering him a potential suspect, as Loretta did not die by natural causes. She was very clearly strangled, and the search was on. But then came the moment that shocked an entire nation, as cameras from the Italian talk show Pomeriggio rolled outside the family home. Lorenzo Carbone approached the crew. At first he seemed confused and nervous, pacing and mumbling. But then, in front of the microphone, he quietly said the unthinkable: "I killed my mother." The reporter froze. Lorenzo explained that his mother had been battling dementia, that her constant confusion had driven him far past his limits. He admitted to suffocating her in her sleep, first with a pillow, then with a lace cord. Within seconds, the crew realised they were witnessing a live confession of murder. The cameras kept rolling as Lorenzo begged the journalist to call the police. The footage aired soon after, and viewers across Italy were stunned. A confession so raw, out of nowhere. Friends and neighbours described Lorenzo Carbone as quiet, withdrawn, a son who had spent many years caring for his aging mother, Loretta, as her dementia got worse and worse. He rarely left the house. His life was consumed by the routines and frustrations of full-time caregiving. In his own words, he confessed that her illness was driving him crazy, that he felt trapped. That single sentence revealed the mental pressure that had been building for years, but none of it excuses what happened. Police soon completed their investigation, confirming that Loretta Lavrini had been suffocated inside her own bed. Lorenzo was arrested and charged with murder. What started as a routine day for Arizona police quickly spiraled into one of the most shocking pursuits ever caught on camera. Shortly after 10 AM, reports came in of an armed bank robbery at a local branch near Desart Street. Officers rushed to the scene, but the suspects were already on the move. Witnesses described a dark-coloured vehicle speeding away from the area as sirens began to echo through the streets. Within minutes, the chase was underway. Multiple patrol units, air support overhead, and news helicopters tracking the getaway car as it tore through the Phoenix metro area. To the public, it looked like just another high-speed pursuit, but no one watching could have predicted how this one would end. As the chase moved west through the Phoenix metro area, news helicopters began broadcasting the pursuit live. Viewers across Arizona tuned in as the suspect's car sped down the freeway, weaving between vehicles, police close behind. From above, the scene was eerily calm, but inside that car, tension was building. According to investigators, the suspect, believed to be connected to the earlier bank robbery, refused to surrender. Police later said the driver had fired shots at officers during the pursuit, forcing them to return fire. From the live helicopter feed, you could see the car slowing as spike strips were deployed, its tyres shredding, sparks flying, and officers surrounding the vehicle with their weapons drawn. Viewers watching the live broadcast witnessed the unthinkable, the suspect's car rolling to a stop, smoke rising as the chase came to its violent end.
Look at this, would you?
Here we go. Almost. Yep. Okay. Nice. Hit maneuver. Look at that.
Look at that.
That was just...
Officers immediately fired shots into the car. Within minutes, it was clear the driver was down. Paramedics were called forward. The pursuit that had started with a bank robbery had ended with a life lost on live TV. For many watching, it was the first time they had seen a death unfold in real time. In the hours that followed, police identified the three men involved in the Avondale bank robbery. 31-year-old Ruben Rodriguez, 20-year-old Sergio Escobedo, and 31-year-old Stephen Del Rio, the suspect who died. Del Rio's sister, Cristina Del Rio, described him as a man struggling to rebuild his life after prison, someone who'd lost direction but still had a big heart. It was just after dawn on August 26, 2015. The crew of WBJ-7, a local news station in Virginia, set up for what would have been a routine live interview. Reporter Alison Parker and cameraman Adam Ward were covering a community story at Bridgewater Plaza, a cheerful segment about local tourism. Viewers tuning in that morning had no reason to expect anything out of the ordinary. The broadcast began smoothly. Alison smiled, the interviewee laughed, and then in a matter of seconds, everything went so horribly wrong. Without warning, gunshots echoed through the live feed. The camera jolted violently, dropping to the ground. The scene cut back to the stunned anchors in the studio, their confusion clear for everyone watching at home. Within minutes, local law enforcement and first responders were on their way, but the world had already witnessed something unthinkable, a live television segment leading to the death of 2 reporters. Alison Parker was a 24-year-old reporter, bright, energetic, and dedicated to storytelling. Adam Ward was a 27-year-old. He was the man behind the camera. He was a well-loved member of the WBJ team. But not far behind them, in the shadows of WBJ's past, another figure lingered. Vesta Lee Flanagan, known on air as Bryce Williams.
Bryce Williams, WDBJ 7.
A former reporter at the same station, Flanagan had been dismissed 2 years earlier after repeated conflicts with co-workers and management. What seemed like professional disagreements at the time would later reveal something far more troubling. By the summer of 2015, Flanagan's bitterness had turned into a plan, a horrifying plan that he would carry out on live TV. To understand what happened that morning, we have to step back into the fractured mind of the man who pulled the trigger. Flanagan, who called himself Bryce Williams, joined WBJ in 2012 as a reporter. At first he appeared professional, ambitious, and eager to make his mark. But soon, tensions began to surface. Co-workers described him as volatile, easily angered by views he disagreed with. He soon accused others of discrimination. After a series of confrontations, management made the difficult decision to let him go in 2013. When he was escorted from the building by police, Flanagan filmed the incident, a sign of just how deep his resentment had grown. In the years that followed, he struggled to hold down jobs, his online presence filled with frustration. In a disturbing spiral, he began to believe that the world, and especially his former news station, had turned against him. In the months before the attack, Flanagan legally purchased a handgun. He prepared equipment, planned his timing, and waited for an opportunity when his former colleagues would be their most vulnerable. Live, on camera, unable to escape. August 26, 2015, just before 6:45 AM. It was a morning like any other. Alison Parker and Adam Ward were setting up for a light-hearted live segment, interviewing Vicky Gardner of the local Chamber of Commerce about tourism in the area. To them, it was just another story, the kind they'd done dozens and dozens of times. The broadcast went live, everything seemed ordinary, but behind them in the distance, someone was watching. Flanagan, their former co-worker, stood just out of frame, holding a handgun and his own camera. He'd been recording them quietly, waiting for the moment to strike. Seconds later, as Alison continued her interview, he opened fire. The live feed jolted, screams echoed, and the camera fell, still recording, capturing only chaos and the ground below. Within moments, the station cut back to the studio, where anchors sat frozen, unaware of what just happened. Viewers soon realised they had just witnessed murder live on TV. Police rushed to the scene. Adam Ward and Alison Parker were soon pronounced dead. Vicky Gardner, the woman they had been interviewing, survived after being shot in the back. As emergency crews arrived, Flanagan fled in his car, beginning a manhunt that would unfold across 2 counties. In the hours after the attack, law enforcement across Virginia launched a massive manhunt for Flanagan. As police closed in on Interstate 66, Flanagan ended things on his own terms. Just before this, Flanagan had mailed a 23-page manifesto to ABC News, claiming the attack was revenge for years of mistreatment. He had also uploaded his own footage of the event to social media,